Welcome to the Crystal Zinn podcast. I believe our bodies are a living map of the entire universe. All the answers reside within. Remember, you are sovereign, whole, and infinitely valuable. And the best gift we can give to the world is our own healing. Join me as we explore holistic tools, spiritual practices, and paradigms that are shifting the way people experience life, business, and relationships. I love to share education on the most recent medical research and cutting-edge technology on anatomy, neurology, trauma, development, and more to give us a foundation in understanding how to align, utilize, and upregulate our physical systems. Ultimately, this podcast is a witness and support to people on their journey of remembering, an inspiration for all of us to keep going, and a reminder that we are not alone. Okay. Welcome to this episode, which is called Choosing Creativity Over Violence. So I'm going to share with you a practice that I've been implementing recently, which I got from the book called The Way of Integrity. And I will tag all of this information in the show notes and on YouTube in the description underneath. So what happens with this practice is, first of all, noticing where and when you feel like inflicting violence. So maybe it's a judgmental thought. It could be as simple as just a negative thought to yourself, or as aggressive as like, I really actually want to hurt this person because I'm so angry, or I am so upset at the injustice of some sort of idea out there that my body is clenching and I find myself being argumentative and just treating all of the items around me in line at the grocery store, whatever I pick up and touch, with unkindness. So the idea here is choosing creativity instead of violence. And the way we're going to achieve this is through finding your personal phrase and deepening your core values. Okay, so this is probably going to be a shorter one, but stick with me. And as always, we're just going to tune in to clear our minds. That doesn't sound how I want it to sound. If you're in a place where you can close your eyes, just come back to your center for a second. Deep breath in through the nose, out through your mouth. Observe a slower belly breath. Just remember, nobody needs anything from you. You can sit in your sovereignty. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to have a preference. Okay. Blink your eyes open. Come back if you have not yet. Notice maybe a few things of your five senses. What do you smell, taste, see? Maybe keeping a gentle gaze. And we're going to think about a phrase. It's two words. It's a verb and an adverb, such as loving fearlessly, growing intensely, living righteously. Ponder for a second what your ultimate goal or belief in the truth of your purpose is. What would that be for me? And then you're going to, and you can do this more later if you don't totally love exactly what you came up with, but just something simple, just something quick. I'll use loving fearlessly, creating effortlessly, protecting kindly. Like I said, I'm going to use mine, loving fearlessly. Okay, so that can be dived into a little more deeply if you want to. If you like that, write it down, put a pin in that. You can ponder on that longer. You can read that book the way of integrity, or you can, I don't know, meditate, ponder, search up a few other things if you want to hone in on that in a more authentic or deeper way. But for now, we're just going to kind of gently gloss over that part and say you've got your verb and your adverb. And we're just going to think about how that applies to your core values. And there is some work to be done there. So if you've been doing some self-awareness work for a while, this is going to work better. If you haven't, just look forward to that, getting a little bit more clear and authentic as you do that. Because the reason is you can start to notice some of your core values and mind stories, and you can decide if those truly are aligned with you in your life right now, or if they're coming from unconscious beliefs or outsourcing, or something maybe you've never really considered before and you've just started to think about. Why do I believe loving fearlessly is such an important part of my purpose and my heart song? Is it because someone told me I had to be that way, or is it coming up from the inside out? So these are some things that kind of shape and color and phrase your work in that area. And we're not going to do that on this podcast today, but I am just going to make you aware of it. So if you like it, jot that down, grab your notes real quick, pause the podcast and say, wow, I'm going to give some more thought to this. For today, we're going to shift and take another quick pause and think about the last time that you were upset and felt violent towards yourself or others. And violence, is anything that's not love. A Course in Miracles teaches us that any phrase coming out of your mouth, any thought, any action, only has two options. One, it's rooted in fear, or two, it's rooted in love, and there's nothing in between. So hopefully that gives you enough material. I know that gives me an endless amount of material to see where I have chosen fear or my last thought or act of violence against myself or others. Pause. When was your last complaint, uprising of anger, or literal thought or act of violence? And we're going to take that scenario. A therapist I really like says, first or worst. We're going to think of the first or the worst time you felt that anger or experience, like maybe right now it's directed towards the political situation in our country. Maybe it's directed towards an in-law. Maybe it's directed towards your working environment or your relationship with other people or money. So think of that. We're going to expand it a little bit, make it a little worse, a little bigger. Oh my gosh, I am so frustrated at this. It causes me the uprising of violence. In that scenario for you, I can just imagine you each have a totally different and very interesting and valid act of violence coming up. What I want to share with you is the thing that helped me the most is first recognize that uprising, that feeling. I'm actually teaching this to my 7-year-old right now. She's right in the midst of learning this for herself. When you have that feeling, your first thought is now going to be, what was my phrase? So that may take a little time and may be hard, but at least try to do it once or twice today. When you feel an uprising of emotion, what's my verb and adverb? What's my phrase? And if you can do that even once, you are going to notice this waterfall shift of your energy from fear to love, because love is very close to creativity, if not a synonymous and very likeness in vibration. Love and creativity. Violence is a very close vibration, if not synonymous with, you probably already guessed what I'm going to say, fear. So violence and fear versus love and creativity, just for the purposes of this exercise, so that you can start exploring and feeling it in your body. So I'm getting really upset. I'm really upset about the situation. Let's just make it political. And this is an example, remember. So I'm going to demonstrate, like for me, I am so upset at the thought of people being taken out of their homes or deported or not given due process, understanding, compassion based on citizenship in our country. So if that's mine today and I feel an uprising of violence towards others, towards a system, towards an idea, hate, anger, and that also causes violence within, right? As so without, so within, as above, so below. And so I feel immediate like shame, frustration. How do I do more? What do I say? I'm going to use that example because it is a very charged example. And so if yours was medium or low charged, you can see how this can work in even a higher charge situation. And if my first thought is, oh my gosh, I am feeling violence, which means somewhere there's fear close by. It's definitely not love and creativity, right? So there's only two options. So I can easily label it fear and violence for myself. So immediately if I think, okay, let's pause and take a breath. What's my phrase? My phrase is loving fearlessly. How can I create what I want? Through loving fearlessly. And you guys, it is this simple. I have been using it everywhere. Okay, maybe simple doesn't do it justice because it can become complex and nuanced and abundant, but the thought, the shift in energy is always very simple, and that's how you'll know you've tapped into it. So I'll give you a minute. Let's go back to your act of violence. Close your eyes. Feel it fully in your body, and then think of your phrase. Okay, end on your verb and adverb and ask, how can I create that, create the outcome I want and use loving fearlessly to do it? So in the container of my example, I can listen to people who are afraid, learn about people who are in this situation, open my whole heart and feel all of it, understand, love. And fearlessly is important for me because there are a lot of things that can shut that tenderness and fierceness down because of misunderstanding and, once again, fear, right? And so there are things that now my brain and body starts working. I can create an event. I can create a fundraiser. I can find out and do things politically that matter to me. And all along the way, I can love each person involved, understand their position and where they're coming from, and be fearless about my position. And all of a sudden, can you feel it in your body with your specific example? Can you feel the possibilities, the power? Whereas before, we feel powerless and we feel aggressive. Now we feel powerful and enabled to act. And also, most importantly, creative, because creativity is the medium of God. And I just want to point out, because I learned in this book and then Googled a lot of examples, that all of our forward thinkers, leaders, people who change things in society for us, our teachers, we're all excessively creative. There's a lot of things she quotes in the book where she said Gandhi sewed his own clothes. Like, she names many that I can't remember right now, where all of these leaders that we look up to and thought leaders in the world and religious and spiritual leaders were actually extremely creative, and meaning with their hands, with their voices, with their minds. And so not only was that creative outlet flowing through them in ways that we don't know just because it had to do with their personal lives, that is the fuel and the minutia that powers change in the world and lots of bigger things. One lady I know she mentioned was the lady who started the Special Olympics. And that had a whole undertaking, a story in and of itself, but she honed into her word, her purpose, and her creativity, and was like, how can I create a solution to this problem? And how can I use loving fearlessly, or her verb and adverb, to create what she wanted to see in the world? And what she ended up creating was a little meeting at first that then turned into the Special Olympics. So I was and am endlessly inspired by this process. Every time it happens in my body, I build a deeper awareness for violence. One of the tenets of yoga I've mentioned before is ahimsa, nonviolence, and the plethora that nonviolence actually encompasses. Nonviolence includes non-worry. It includes how you feed yourself, what you consume, what you think, not just how you act. And so this idea of building awareness for violence, or the violence that comes up in yourself, is so beautiful and so powerful. And then being able to tap into what you decided today, or will further study your verb and adverb, and then how can I be creative, is going to unlock and unleash so much power for us. If you are into books, I highly suggest that book, and I highly suggest workshopping it and taking your time to go through it. Is so good. And if you're also local and you love workshopping books like that and sort of this self-development, self-introspection type stuff, I am doing a book club, and we're holding it the second week in April. It's pretty full, but I'm sure conflicts will arise with people's schedules, and there may be room to get in a couple more people. And it's some deep work. You've got to really workshop this book for the next 4 or 6 weeks, and then show up with something to provide or offer or share the night that we're hosting it. And so if that really calls to you and you've got this fire in your belly for it, reach out to me privately on my socials, or on YouTube or Instagram or email. All my information's out there, and let me know, and I will see if I can get you on the list. If not the list, the wait list. And at the very least, I'll send you the book and the invitation, and so you can dive deep into that, and we can have conversations aside about that work. But book club is offering from my heart, coming out of some of these things that I'm learning, that I just feel like loving fearlessly is pushing me to create this offering, and it's actually free. And so it's one of the things I want to create in the world, turning some of my violence into creativity. Choosing creativity instead of violence towards myself and others and anything in the world. So let me know about that. Back to our topic of teaching you this principle. If I was going to sum it up, it would be: deepen your core values. Find out about yourself. Build self-awareness. Figure out your verb and adverb and use it. Secondly, begin to notice when violence is coming up in yourself, even in just your thoughts and your attitudes towards other people. It happens every day that ends in Y, and every hour on the hour, right? And so there's small and big ways you can start observing and becoming aware of this. And then thirdly, take the turn. Use this process that I learned to notice, think of your word, and then turn it into creativity. Alchemize that power of emotion and create with it. And if I had to put a fourth step in for today, it would be follow through. Do it. Like, be brave and do it. I actually have some really inspirational friends that are doing this right now. I'm going to plug in here my little plug for our retreat in Italy. On my Instagram, I will plug my friends who are creating some of these things so that you can follow them and see them at their events. But mostly my biggest plug is just, what is going to make the difference for you to enact some of these creative ventures that are coming from the inside of you out? Also, how can I support you? I know I get asked that question by gurus I follow and learn from all the time, and it's one thing to listen, learn, ponder. It's a whole nother thing when you get struck by lightning, or somehow, someday, have the clarity and energy to just step in and do it. And no one's going to promise you that it's going to be easy. It's going to be met with kindness and totally received, but it's part of our being. It's part of our growing and our learning. And I've done it. And I continue to do it. And I continue to feel all of the things. I continue to have days where I feel like I cannot, and it gets me down. And then days where I feel open and abundant. And I know that this tool has been and is going to continue to be a really awesome, brave step to turning some of those thoughts around from violence to creativity. And it's working so quickly, and it's so effective, it's so efficient, and it's so beautiful. That's why I wanted to share this little mini podcast with you. Let me know how that's helping you. Start a conversation online with me. Comment if you see me post clips of this on socials. Reach out if you have questions, but most importantly, like I said, my plug is for you. Like, ask yourself that question as you're turning these things around. How can I choose creativity instead of violence? What is my core value? What is my verb and adverb? And as I'm getting brave, what's the actual physical effect in the world that you can create from it? I think it's really exciting. Oh, a bird just flew past my window. Okay, so that's all I have today. Let's go ahead and end with an Om or listening. I'll pull a quick card for you from my I Ching deck. And stay tuned in the credits if you need to know how to contact me. Inhale. Option to close your eyes. Once again, exhale. Relax the body. Just absorb, swirl, ponder around things that you feel resonate and are for you. And just send things that you felt like were said or don't really resonate with you on their way down the stream. Okay. Today's card from my I Ching Dragon deck is Prospering. It's I Ching number 35. And it's a beautiful red dragon. It's probably backwards to you in your screen because I didn't put mirroring on my phone today. But that's okay. I'm going to show you the beautiful picture. And then check out the show notes if you're listening to this on an Audible platform, and the description under YouTube, or if you see it on my socials, and I will copy and paste from the I Ching 35 a little bit deeper meaning of what this means. And as always, Satnam. Have you been looking for the adventure of a lifetime? Join me, Elizabeth, and Rachel this June in stunning Sardinia, Italy for a yoga and adventure retreat. My heart has been calling me to this part of the world for a really long time. Connect with your mind, body, and spirit while exploring breathtaking landscapes, rock climbing, boating trips, and more. Early bird pricing is available until January 31st, 2025. Email me, visit my website, or check out my Instagram at Crystal Zinn Yoga for more details. Let's make magic together in Sardinia. Thank you for listening. Connect with me on Instagram at Crystal Zinn Yoga. Subscribe on my website at crystalzinnyoga.com to receive tools and practices for your holistic journey and to be the first to know about offerings, workshops, trainings, and retreats. We live in powerful times that require courage, bravery, compassion, authenticity, community, and grounding. You're not alone. Check out my free content, classes, and meditations on YouTube under Crystal Zinn Yoga, and have a beautiful day. Satnam.